Hello everyone, my name is Muir and we've got something new for you today. However, before we get into the video, I'd like to take a moment to tell you that nearly 70% of people who watch our videos are not subscribed. If you're not subscribed, you could do me a huge favor by liking the video, commenting below, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that bell. It really helps out the channel and lets me know that you're liking what I'm making. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the video. Hello everyone, my name is Muir and this is a smuggling guide for Starsector. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So the first thing, we're playing a smuggling douche, as you can see, everyone loves us. And, well, you're going to need one of two things, depending on what you want to smuggle. The first one is going to either be transverse jump, which you get from navigation, or sensors. So sensors is nice because it decreases your detected at range, and it also increases your burn speed, your movement speed, by 3 when you are running silent. Now, what this means, if we look at ourselves, right now we have our transponder on. That's this thing over here. It increases our detection range by like 1,000 or so. You can see this little lines here. That means that somebody is able to scan us there. Since there's no one else there, turn off our transponder. Though out of that range, no one will come after us. Now, this is incredibly important if you want to smuggle, because this tells you what your sensor profile is in the game. How enemies detect, how other fleets detect you, is they have their sensor range, this, and I think it's just added to, I think these two are added together. So the enemies, the other ships, the other fleets, sensor range plus your sensor profile determines when they can detect you. Now that's important because there are things, I don't think there's one in here, but there are, oh, we're way out there, huh? So there are certain types of stellar objects, I suppose, that factions can build that increase their sensor range. So if you're smuggling and you're having a problem, you might need to go and destroy those or take them offline or something like that. Probably destroy them, and that'll help you to at least sneak past fleets. Now look at our sensor profile, and now we go dark. It goes down to 100. Interesting, right? Now let's go over here and let's use that. Our sensor profile just became 80, so we went down by 25 or so %. So we are much more difficult to detect, but this is additive with other effects such as asteroid fields. So if we go in here, our sensor profile becomes 5. So we're pretty much undetectable right now unless somebody just runs into us. So we turn on our transponder there, and usually factions like it when your transponder is on, but there's a specific type of fleet that you probably want to aim for, and we don't have it here, but it's called phase ships. Phase ships essentially have, phase ships in this version of the game, they effectively have insulated engine assemblies built into them. We don't have that here. Do they have it for sale? Yeah, they do actually. Cool, we'll take it. So what insulated engine assemblies do is it halves the sensor profile of your ship. So you can see here, increases durability of the ship's engines by 100%. It increases the ship's hull integrity by 10%. The ship's sensor profile is also reduced by 50%. So, sensor profile. You can go over here, and you can see sensor profile. It'll probably be easier to show here. So sensor profile is over here. So as you can see, this one is 32, and this malice here, this plus 12, is likely being caused by one of these two. Let's see. Faulty power grid. Sensor profile increased by 50%. So, how sensor profile works is it's based on the highest sensor profile of the your sensor profile is the sum, so the addition of the highest 5 sensor profiles in your fleet. So this guy has an insane sensor profile, so he has 50, and this one has 38. Yeah, so 50 and 38. So this should be around 88 without a transponder on. It might be double that. So let's turn this off again. And so yeah, it seems to be double the sum of the highest of the. It seems to be double the sum of the seems to be double the sum of the 5 largest sensor profiles in your fleet. If we do this, it halves it down to 80. Okay, so this is important because if we sneak back over here, since these guys probably won't care too much about us, you'll also notice that we're moving at a speed of 8. We can press F1 and we actually get a we get a little bit of information on that. Now, if we did not have this skill, we'd actually be moving at 5, by the way. You notice we can get really close to the station before anybody even has a chance to detect us. Like, his detection range is that. So, if we had a bunch of illegal stuff that we wanted to smuggle in, we could go over here, we'd go to the black market, we could sell a bunch of stuff, and then we could leave. And no one would know. So that's sort of how you should be smuggling if you want to really build your playstyle around smuggling. Now, just as a thing that you should probably do, switch these two around. I don't know why they're still set up this way. You'll be using this a lot more than that. There are some other things you can do, though. Let's say a planet just has so much crap around it that we just can't realistically get in there. Well, enemies will go and investigate any sensor profile that they see, any sensor detection that they see that doesn't have its transponder on when it's in their space. So this space is controlled by this faction, the Zan Empire. So if we do that, they're going to come after us. Now what's important is that they will go after where they think you're going to go, and they will try to predict where you're going to go based on your current trajectory before they lose sight of you. So we can sneak in there. So this guy didn't seem to care, so it's most likely a traitor, and you can usually tell if they have those. They have a bunch of ships with that little like lightning bolt through them that's red. That probably means there's some sort of traitor, especially when there are a bunch of transports like this. So if we walk up to this guy, we can see that he's a traitor. Oh, he's a smuggler, so he's doing the same thing we would prospectively be doing. Now, he's avoiding us because he doesn't know what we are. So the ships will avoid any contact with a fleet that they can't identify. So this means if we turn our transponder on, he suddenly doesn't really care that we're there. So we have these guys. Now they're coming back because they went and investigated and they didn't see anything. They didn't know it was us who turned off the transponder, who was running with this transponder off, so they are going to pretty much ignore us now. You can press S, and that will make you move slowly. You'll notice we're going from 9 to 8. That's what's happening there. Alright, but let's demonstrate the enemy, or enemy fleets, I suppose. So I'm going to go over here, then I'm going to go dark, and I'm going to go the exact opposite direction where they can't see me. You notice they're all going this way, because they think I would be going that way if my trajectory stayed the same. So this is a way you can get rid of fleets. You can sort of pull them away. Now, we have these guys. And because he could see me just barely when I got to the planet, he's gonna start pursuing us. So we can sustain burn away. We have a speed of 18 with sustain burn. Sustain burn basically just doubles your normal speed. And if you turn on your transponder, they might come after you still. If you're running with your transponder off, the AI assumes that you intended to smuggle something in, or you have illegal contraband on you, or you're some sort of pirate or something. So they'll come and investigate you. They'll usually search you, that kind of thing. So this guy, he's pursuing our fleet because we turn on our transponder suddenly when he could see us, when we would be within his sensor range. And if we get far enough away from him, he will basically not care about what we do. Now you'll see some pivots going on here. So you saw we were doing sustained burn. If we try to turn and sustain burn, it takes a while to turn, right? If you turn off sustained burn and you start moving in a different direction, you can turn it back on. If you need to just change direction, you can go dark and then change direction. You can also just turn off sustained burn. That lets you change direction pretty quickly as well. So sustain burning, we can do that. So just little ways to avoid the enemy. Now you can also emergency burn, and that'll let you basically have almost full freedom on how you're going to do things. It also lets you full burn, it also lets you ignore certain things. So if we emergency burn through here and we get asteroids, it won't really slow us down, whereas normally it would. And also there's things that you can do that are not necessarily recommended unless you really need to, which is burning across a star. So you can do that if you just need to get away from the fleet. It does cost you a lot of supplies. And this is an example. Now, he will try to do that, but the AI... Oh, yeah, well, he's on it. He's like, we are coming, get over here. So they will also look for your fleet, and they'll execute a search pattern to try and find you. But that's just how it works. Now, we're not in developer mode, so Command Console doesn't work, so I can't spawn any fleets. But if we go over to Orbital 4, there's a chance we might find something over here. We might find a phase ship that we could potentially buy. Okay, let's see. No. Alright, but this does give us an opportunity to look at some jobs. So sometimes you'll see somebody who wants you to deploy a spy satellite. Those jobs are very similar to smuggling jobs, but there's a place in orbit, sometimes like around here-ish, or around a station, or around the planet, that they will want you to go and click on that while not being detected by anyone. So these can be an easy source of money. They usually pay like, I don't know, like 70k per, and they give you some faction. So they can give you a lot of faction and a lot of money very quickly, but at the same time, they can also be very troublesome if you have a fleet with a very high sensor profile. So if your sensor profile is normally like 1,000, like don't even bother. If it's something where you can get it down really small, then that can be fantastic. Now let's see. Orbital cluster, orbital cluster. We don't have any here. We might have something over here that we can use. Some orbital structures you can just leave ships in and be relatively okay. So let's go to this cryo sleeper pod. Yeah, it's already been cleaned out. So some structures you can go there and just leave a bunch of ships there. No one will really take them or anything like that, as far as I understand. But you can leave ships there if you need to. You can also go to a planet, go to a colony that isn't hostile to you, hopefully, and you can go to fleet, and you can go to storage. So this costs you 5,000 credits, that's nothing. And now you can leave ships. So we can leave this ship. We can't leave our last ship, though. So let's see what we can buy from these guys. We could buy a single mud skipper. Its sensor profile is 50. It won't be that much better than what we've got. Let's go back to storage. Let's take our wolf because it has lower sensor profile than the drone tender. And just to demonstrate why this could be useful to you. Oh yeah, we also have too many people now. So we're going to go to storage when we're in the inventory screen. And we will drop off all of our excess crew and such. Now, there is something about this. Anything that you have in storage that includes ships and also any cargo, there's a tariff. Well, there's a monthly fee of like 1% of the base value of all items stored. The base value is not the same as the buy value. So over here we can see the buy value for this is 10 per crew, 10 credits per unit. Well, over here it's 50 because that's the base value. What that means, by the way, is that these guys make a lot of crew, but there isn't necessarily a demand for that crew. So they're sold for like their contracts to get out of there are like a fifth of what other people's is. So think about this as like Haiti, I guess, in the real world. You have a lot of people, not a whole lot of jobs, mass poverty, and if you wanted to hire them, you could probably get them for dirt cheap compared to hiring other people, if that makes any sense. They're just the same as anybody else, though. That's the thing. As far as I understand, in Starsector, there's no language barriers or anything like that. So if you hire people from the Zon Empire, it's the same as if you hired them from Tritachyon or the Ludic Path. Okay, now this is also an easy way to find out what things' normal values are, but let's find out, let's discuss what to smuggle. So first off, we want to be able to check the black market, because that tends to have the good stuff. So we go back over here with our sensor profile of like 61. We're practically invisible. Now we can go over here and see the black market now. The white market and the black market, or the open market and the black market, may have different things that they sell. So the black market is more likely to have drugs and harvested organs. Sometimes, these don't appear in the base game, by the way, but they tend to have heavy armaments, recreational drugs, and harvested organs. They also have other items that they will sell. So often it's useful for you just to go and look and see what weapons are on both of these. Also, there's a lower tariff, if no tariff, on the black market. So I'm using a mod that adds like random tariffs to things. So the black market here has a tariff, but in the base game it does not have a tariff at all. Now what's important is you can mouse over something and press F1. And if these guys in that system have a comms array, so we have the cluster array, which is effectively a comms array. Yeah, comms array. Then that lets you find out what the prices are across the system. So Limtus doesn't exist in the base game, but Chalcedon does. So that means I could buy these here for 480 and then sell them in Chalcedon for 817. Pretty good. I can also take recreational drugs. I could sell these at Scothy, that appears in the base game, for 295. Not quite what I'd like. And harvested organs, they don't really sell anywhere at a good price. Food typically is low value. Food, ores, organics, those don't usually sell too well. But we can also go to the colony screen. So we press M to go to the colony screen. And we can look over here. Now we can click on these, and that will tell us where we can buy and sell stuff. Because if somebody has a surplus, so if we go down here and we click only show colonies with excess stockpiles, we can see the people that it'll probably be cheap to buy from. Like this person and this person, because they have a huge amount of these, would probably be dirt cheap. You also have, can be bought for this and sold for that. So, Reisevelg, they are in the base game, so is Umbra. But Reisevelg makes one extra excess than Umbra. So Umbra, can be bought for 154. And what does adding one extra do? It can be bought for 117. If we go over here where they have like an excess of like 5, can be bought for 51. These guys have lower access, and what access is it determines how easy it is to trade with them for other colonies. It also affects price. So the lower a planet's access is, the lower their prices will typically be, because they need to undercut to get people to come there and buy from them. So these guys, it sells for dirt cheap. It's like 30 to buy these here. So what you would want to do is you'd want to buy somewhere that's dirt cheap and then sell somewhere that has a higher demand. So the larger this, the more of these red ones there are, the higher the price will be. So this has a deficiency of 1, a shortage of 1. So it sells for 243. This one has a shortage of 2, so it sells for 364. So if we bought from here for 30, let's say we bought 1,000 of them for 30,000, we could then sell here, and well, we sell each one. I mean, the price would go down because they only need 200, but if we could sell all 1,000, we would get, 334 for the first 200, and then slightly lower for more for the next, and then for the next, if that makes any sense. So we could make a ton of money doing that. But let's look at something. Let's look at the illegal commodities. So over here we can see these guys. Who seems to have the most? That seems to be 4, this seems to be 5. This one seems to be 6. So if we were to go to Keprin, which is not in the base game, these would be sold for 126. This one has 12 access, but it has fewer access. This one, 131. I think this is the best one, 126. So we would go here, and we could buy a lot of these for 126, which is ridiculous. And then we would find the person with the lowest access and the most number of shortage. So over here on this one, they have the same shortage as the highest, so they have a shortage of 2. They have 8% access, so that means they most likely will buy these for the most. So they will buy them for 1,122 credits each. Someone similar but with high access is Kua, the Centurion Dictat. So they'll only buy them for 1,039 credits each, because the access has such an effect on it. These guys, they need them less. They have less of a shortage and they have low access, and it's only 842. So the number of shortage here is going to impact the price more than the access does, but the access does have an effect. So we would want to sell these to Fortuna, to Lemtis. Now if you're in the base game, you won't have Lemtis, you won't have Fortuna, you won't have Nadan, you would have Kur and Chalcedon. So we look at these two, they have the exact same shortage, but they have different accesses. So we look at Chalcedon first, 1,040, then Sindria, 1,039. So it's not a huge difference that this makes. It makes a difference, but not a huge one. So we would probably sell to Chalcedon if we are just willing to pay their tithes for the Pathers, or because they will try to tithe you essentially, or if we or if our fleet is big enough to where they just don't think they can take us at all, they will just avoid us. But if you're playing a smuggling fleet that has an extremely low sensor profile, you could very easily pick up a bunch of these from like Reisvelg or Chismolzak, and then take them over to Calzadon and sell them for a fairly large profit. So here they cost like 330, Chismolzak cost 370. So not too big of a deal. At Kreppen, which doesn't exist in the base game, we buy them for 126. So huge. Huge profits, almost 10 times. If we sell them at, say, Limtus. Yeah. So you can make a ton of money. What about drugs? Well, these are the only two people that really have a excess of drugs. And then who has the largest deficit of drugs? I wish I could. I wish I could go by the deficit needed, by the deficit they have. Now you'll notice this one has a deficit, but it's only 1 here, so it sells for 366 there. This one has a larger number, and also sells for only that. So that doesn't really matter too much. This one, however, has a larger deficit, so it sells for 506. So if we were to, in this modded game, buy from here or here, we were to buy, say, a bunch from those, say 1,000, we could then sell them here and make, like what, almost 3 times profit pretty quickly. So, and what about organs? Because almost everyone needs harvested organs, and those seem to sell somewhat well. So here, we could buy them for 92, and over here we could sell them for 525. So over here we could get almost 5 times. We could almost get 4 times profit. So that's how you figure out what you're going to sell. Now, if you don't need to swear off crew either, because we can go over here. Crew is also a resource that you can buy and trade. So we just want to go over here. We want to find the planet with the highest surplus of crew. Looks like orbital 4, and they cost 10 per. We can then go over here and we can see Maggie's. We'll buy each one of those for 75. So we just made 6.5 times profit per crew. And typically, if you go and you look at your ships, you'll notice that ships have cargo capacity for like supplies, heavy armaments, drugs. Then they have crew. So what this means is if you can sell crew, you can sell flesh essentially, to make money. You can also, but this is relatively low yield, but at the same time, you're just going to have a lot of empty space on your ships because your ships only need a skeleton crew to function. And adding additional crew doesn't really improve your ships at all. It just makes it so that when you take losses due to combat, you have more crew just to throw in when you recover ships or you find a ship out in the middle of nowhere. So you can smuggle people, even though you don't need to necessarily smuggle them. You can just take them from point A to point B and sell off their contracts, essentially. But if you are looking for an easy thing that you can almost always sell a ton of and make reliable profit on, even though it's usually only about 2 times profit, then we can look at supplies. Now, if we go and turn this on, we can see who makes the most supplies, who has the highest surplus. So in this one, it would be Civi. So Civi sells each one of these for 59 per, which is these guys also for 44, 45, so a little bit lower. Chismolzak, they sell them for 73 each. That's about the cheapest you'll get in the base game. But let's go with this one, about 59 each, and these are about 40. So let's say we can buy them for about 50 each. If we go over to consumers, we can just look for who has the highest deficit. So we have some 3s, some 2s, some 1s. We have a 4 here. Do we have any 5s? Doesn't look like it. We have 2 4s. So of the 4s, we're going to look at who has lowest access. He has low access, he has low access, but he has the lowest access of the fours. So if we look at him, we can sell each one of those supplies for 314. So effectively making 5 times profit on that. The profit is, you have the base cost, and then the profit is everything after that. So if it costs us 50, we sell it for 300. We made our 50 back, so we didn't profit yet. And then we have the 20, then we have the 250 that is just profit. So 5 times profit there. We go over here to the next one up. It's close. It's not quite 5 times profit. And over here it's even lesser. It's not quite 5 times profit, but it's close. And this is just another way that you can completely legally make a lot of money. Now, when you're smuggling, the main benefit of that is that you can use the black market without any kind of repercussions. The black market in the base game does not have a tariff of any kind. So if something sells for 300, you get all the 300. If we go over to the white market, though, it'll usually have a tariff of like 15 or so percent. I think it's 15. So for every 100 credits you make, you lose 15 credits on the white market, or the open market as they call it in this game. So it usually behooves you to use the black market as much as possible, unless you are doing something where you are buying extremely cheaply and selling extremely expensively, and if you just want to keep your nose clean. Now, for gaining reputation, if you sell on the white market, you are more likely to gain positive faction with the factions you sold on the white market. So if I go over here, this is on Empire place. If I buy and sell stuff on the white market, they will actually like me more and I will get faction with them. If I buy and sell on the black market and they know it's me, then I will lose faction with them. Just how it works. So again, if you want to do everything completely legally and you want to just bulk sell stuff, then supplies are fantastic. If you want to go illegal, then heavy armaments is great, so is drugs and harvested organs. The tier list here, I guess, for what is better than the other is going to look like this. So you have heavy armaments, they sell for them. They buy for the most, but they also sell for the most. So you get the highest amount of profit per heavy armament. Or you can, at least. Over here, we have harvested organs. You can typically buy these for cheap and sell them for relatively expensive as well. Recreational drugs. You can buy these for cheap, but you're usually going to get double or triple your investment. Whereas over here, you can get double that investment very easily. Over here, usually not. But you can, but it's a little bit harder. Also, these, if we were to just buy one of each, and then we go over to over here, we can see this one's grayed out because they don't like these, so they don't like to sell. They don't like these in their markets. But over here we can see the base price of this is 300, the base price of this is 500, and so that shows the base price of this, but I think it's around 200. So we have 500, 300, 200. So that means to double your investment, this needs to be at least 1,000, sell for 1,000. This needs to sell for around 600, and this needs to sell for around 400. Now that works great, because I mean, you can get more money from selling these than you can these, per piece of cargo. Now, these are 500 per unit. So over here we have 50 units of cargo. This counts as one, that counts as one, that counts as one. So, if you are just after money, and you go over here and you see that there is somebody that you can buy these from for cheap, and you can sell to for expensive, then these are going to be your biggest money makers. The only problem is, if these are illegal in an area in space, these are illegal by a faction, and they catch you with them, you will either have to fight them to get them away from you, or you'll have to surrender some of these, if not all of them. So that means that in the base game, at least, unless you're willing to just fight them and ruin your reputation with them, the illegal stuff is risky to an extent. Now, if you're just willing to just smuggle and you're willing to fight enemy fleets when they try to take your illegal contraband, then these can be fine. Just make sure your transponder's off and they didn't see you with your transponder on, or they'll know who you are. And that gets us to another piece of smuggling. So this guy's after us now because we turned on our transponder when he can see us. So he's getting close, and we have contraband. Let's just say all three of these are illegal. So if we space that, and he catches us, we allow them to scan us. He looks off screen, but what about those cargo pods? Which, let me check. Why? They do contain illegal cargo. Not yours, are they? No? Excellent. Well, we'll be confiscating the contents then. Get you running with your transponder off again. You won't get off so easily. So, they will confiscate those now. So if you know you're not going to get away from somebody, you can just space all your stuff, and they'll just be like, well, I guess that wasn't yours, huh? Okay, we'll take it. If they catch you with it in, they will confiscate it and you'll get a little bit more of a faction hit. Enemies can't arrest you in this game. They can just attack you. So, you don't have to worry about that too much. But yeah, that is basically the basics of smuggling. So remember your sensor profile, right now it's really high because we have our transponder on. We turn that transponder off, suddenly it's 122. We go dark and suddenly it's 61. And we're getting chased by someone. We go to an asteroid belt. Well, now our sensor profile is like 4. So what that looks like is ridiculous. They have to get so close to us. Yeah, like, it's hard to see, but we almost have to be touching them for us to see us right now. So, very, very easy to avoid detection if your transponder is off, and if you're in an asteroid belt, and if you have a relatively low sensor profile already. And just so you're aware of this, because let's go and install let's go and install the insulated engine assemblies on this wolf, just so you can see what that does. So we come over here. We'll get rid of that, I guess, and we will add the insulated engine assemblies. Well, here's the thing. Notice how our ship has a lower sensor profile now. So if we turn off sustain burn, because that increases it. Okay, so now it's at 108 instead of whatever it was, like 120. And now it goes down to like 54. A phase ship basically has built-in insulated engine assemblies, but it doesn't count as insulated assemblies. So that means you can take your sensor profile from half to half of half. So to like 25%. In essence, you're invisible. So we go from we would basically go from 54 to like 25 or something. Then in here, we would go to like 1 or 2. Probably 2. So yeah, smuggling can be really easy. It can be really difficult. If you have a fleet that has a lot of usually the larger a ship is, the higher its sensor profile will be. So if we look at an afflictor, which is a phase ship, it has this -12, so that's its sensor profile. That -12 is because of its phase field. We could then reduce that by 50% again to get to like 7 or 6. I think 7 because it rounds up. If we then compare that to, say, a destroyer class, we have Let's see, where's the Harbinger? Because it's the vanilla destroyer phase ship. That has a detection range of 25. So normally that would be around 50, but because of phase fuel, it's 25. If we put a insulated engine assembly on it, it goes down to like 12, 13. If we look at the cruiser, I think the Revenant counts as a cruiser. Let's go find it. Revenant. So this is the phase transport ship, by the way. So it's is 38, so we could half that down to like 9 or so. 9. 17 probably. So, well, 19 or 17 or so. 17 or 18. So we can get this down really far. The capital version is these. I don't know if it shows up here. Yeah, it doesn't show up here. But there's a capital-sized phase ship as well that you'll find in the Galatia questline. And that one also, it can be very sneaky and very stealthy. So phase ships can be fantastic for smuggling. If, however, you don't have any phase ships, any frigate that does not have a civilian-grade hull, like the, let's throw it there, like the drone tender, will do really well. So why not civilian-grade hulls? Well, civilian-grade hulls have this nice little mallows, and that is, we'll just have to take it, and then we can look at it. And that is this, civilian-grade hulls. Increases the sensor profile by 100%, reduces sensor strength by 50%. Unfortunately, what that means is that they go from 25 sensor profile. They go from 13 sensor profile, 25 sensor profile up to 50, because it doubles it. So if you're trying to use civilian grade hulls for your smuggling operation, that's probably not going to work out too well. So make sure you use military grade stuff. It will just not have this, and that can help a bunch. You can get around that a little bit, I think, with no. You just have to use insulated engine assembly to eliminate that, because it reduces it by 50%. So it goes up to 50, and we can reduce it down to 25, I think. Put that on there, we can go back up here, we can look. So now it's 25 again. So this pushes it up to 50, this doubles it to 50, this halves 50 back down to 25. So anything with a civilian grade hull is not really great for smuggling. Anything without civilian grade hull, probably okay. And phase ships are just top tier for smuggling. The only problem with phase ships is that they tend to not have a lot of cargo. So how do you get around that? Well, if we go to add, you can see there's additional berthing. This is more crew. So if you're smuggling people for whatever reason, you can do that. We also have expanded cargo holds. This increases the amount of cargo you can carry, which is great. There's also auxiliary fuel tanks. This increases the amount of fuel you can have. I would very much prefer it if it was just additional berthing, additional fuel tanks, additional cargo holds, so they're all next to each other instead of this crap where you have to go look for them. But that's just a personal thing. You know, this is more immersive, I guess. But if you need more fuel so you can get around, then the auxiliary fuel tanks is great. If you want to be able to sell more cargo, then additional cargo holds is great. And if you need more people, then additional berthing is great. With phase ships, your main problem is going to be crew, because many of them don't necessarily carry enough crew. Many of them don't have enough crew capacity to run themselves, and at least not by default. And many of them have very limited cargo. Let's talk about this one over here, build in. So if we had story points, we could take something like, I don't know, additional berthing, And we could build that in with a story point. We don't have any story points right now, but we could build one of these in. If we go over to our character, if we were to get this, best of the best, we could build in 3. Not that one. 3. What is it that the Europeans do, like this, I guess? 3? I think it's like Germans. Maybe they do that. Maybe they do like the pinky and such. But we can go over here and we now build in 3 of them. So if you wanted your smuggling frigate fleet, you could build in additional berthing, auxiliary fuel tanks, and expanded cargo holds on each one of your phase ships to give them as much capacity as possible to do raids, to do cargo, to do all kinds of things. That's not really all that efficient though, so I wouldn't recommend it, because there are more specialized ships that already do that job. So if you're wanting to do a phase fleet, then I believe it's a destroyer class one, there is a phase transport ship. I don't quite remember what it's called, but it's in here somewhere. It'll be easier to find in a vanilla game. So Harbingers, that's a combat ship. Is it on this level? I think it is. I think it's destroyer class. I think it's like a Phaeton or something. Maybe. Not a Phaeton. It's probably not that. Valkyrie, Victoria, I'm not sure. But there is a transport that you can use that is a phase ship. Phantom, that's what it is. So the Phantom, as you can see, it can hold 200 people. It also has this advanced ground support. That basically means that it can support up to 200 Marines per Phantom. What's great about that is that if you have 200 Marines in this, you'd need at least 5 crew, but if you had 200 Marines for some reason, like you put additional berthing in there, they would effectively be 400 Marines because of the Phantom. The other one is the Revenant, which is in the base game. And that has high fuel capacity and it has high cargo capacity. So you'd need like 3-4 of these, maybe 5, to really be able to go around the sector. Now you'd need a lot of supplies, because phase ships, because of delicate machinery, they require a lot of supplies to repair themselves and also to just maintain themselves. And fuel capacity is important because that allows you to go the distance. So what happens if for some reason you decide you want to fly around with less crew, or you sell too many crew? Well, we have 30 crew and we need 35 crew. So what that means is when we look at our fleet, they are going to have reduced combat readiness. So because it can only have 58 CR because it has low crew, it's losing 5% per day because we don't have enough crew. But if we go over here, we can buy more crew, can hire more people to get above that. And now our maximum possible CR goes up to 65 on this and 66. So we would need to repair them. It doesn't cost much, and we can do that. But again, just for smuggling, there's some miscellaneous other information in there. But go to a colony, any colony, hit it, colony info, go over here, click on only show colonies with excess and shortages, and find who has the largest excess of something, who has the largest deficit of something, and then try to buy from the person with the largest excess and sell to the person with the largest deficit. And that will make you the most money, generally. Alright guys, that should be everything. Remember, sensor profile, the lower it is, the better. Sensor range, the higher it is, the better. And remember that if your sensor profile is really low, but the enemies have a huge amount of sensor range, they will still be able to see you pretty well. If they have a sensor array instead of a comms array, that will increase the range of their sensors. So you might need to go take that out or destroy it or something, or take it offline somehow. So, and also juking. Remember, you can always juke the enemy. So somebody saw us as we turn off our transponders, so they're going to go investigate. Well, we can turn this on. We go to the direction we think we don't want them to go, but we're going to go to the direction we want them to go, and then we're going to go the opposite direction. This works pretty reliably. So let's move towards them. Let's go dark, and let's try to get away from them. They're going to start looking that direction, but here's the thing. Because it's obvious to them that if we had gone that way, they would have just seen us by now. They're going to start doing a search pattern around here. So that means that what you want to do is to move it away that would be plausible for them to not notice you going that direction. For them to think you could still be going that direction and pursue you in that direction. So he's still going over there because we were heading this direction. Now he's pinging, he's using his active sensor burst to try and find us. But alright, that should be everything. Remember, you want these two, so this will be your first pick, this will be your second pick, and this one right here, bulk transport, will be your third pick. So it just increases your cargo capacity in your fleet, your cargo, fuel, and personnel capacity. Fantastic if you're just doing a lot of trading. It does not help you in combat really, aside from being able to hold more supplies, so you can repair yourself more. But sensors, navigation, and bulk transport, these should be your first 3 picks if you're doing a smuggling build. Transverse jump is great, it lets you just jump out of a system. So it would be like here-ish or so, and you hit it, and then after about like 5 seconds or so, you just hop out of normal space into hyperspace, and you're good to go. But alright guys, I think that's about everything. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do for you. My name has been Muir, this has been Starsector version 0.95.1a RC6, and I'll catch you guys next time. Go leave me a like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, and just share the video however you think would like it. Bye.